Hasn't gotten up here yet, it's probably up the river. Out there.
Might need a boat.
Well, I guess Braxton had a two-hour delay.
Mr. Putnam, how are you, sir?
Fine, how you doing?
I'm all right.
You, might be flooded out, we've already.
Did it pour the rain down out your way last night?
Today, just a few minutes ago. calm before the storm.
Literally and figuratively. I could even get Pinterest.
Well, my time says 5 o'clock, so we're gonna call this meeting to order. Let's stand and I'll ask Dr. Barr if he'd lead us to the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have any delegations? No delegations? And we'll move into the consent agenda. August the 8th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look at those minutes for August the 8th?
Yes.
Have a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Been moved and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Treasurer's report, Clay?
Tonight, I have the schedule of checks to be written. You have a monthly financial report written on the agenda. Kind of seems to be a common theme across the state right now. A lot of technology issues. That report writer is even currently today still unavailable. I was hoping to have it and still present it, but it is still not available for me to run that. As soon as that is available, I will be running that and I will send it to you in an email. So what I have for you tonight under Treasurer's Report is the schedule of checks to be written. Are there any questions with those? Yes, sir.
The, I don't know where it's at, I think I probably easier to count back to the back. Second page from the back, the LED lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that, I'm sure that's in all buildings. What buildings does that cover?
That would, I mean, they did, it depends on the, it depends on the invoice, depends on the bill. It covered
Okay.
all buildings.
Okay, that's, my only question was, is the new school, the grade school. We were replacing the lighting in the grade school.
We were, the only LED lighting that was in the grade school was in the gym.
So once again,
And
the
we
new
were
school
surprised
building-
when we started that process
That was-
that it didn't have LED lighting, but the
That was my
technology
question,
was,
yeah.
that was built with an SBA grant, and the technology was very expensive at the time, even then when that was built, compared to what it is now. So
That was my only
to
question.
answer your question, yes,
Yeah.
it included the lighting here, include the lighting at the elementary school, except for the gym, and then the entire high school was retrofitted with the LED lighting.
I just hate to see, such a new building already having to.
If I may, just jump in here, because we outfitted our auditorium with that recently. We'll make our money back on that because they
Yes.
take up like 20% of the energy.
Yeah, we did it in our offices as well. I mean, I know everyone's.
But I see what you're saying, it's a
I
new
just-
school.
I hate to see us, we just.
But we'll probably make that up on the back end though, right?
That's correct,
Okay,
yes.
but you're right, I see, yeah, I agree.
It's a brand new building.
Mhm, yes, sir.
Already replacing the light.
Was there any other questions with the checks to be written?
Do I have a motion to approve the schedule of checks?
Motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Clay.
Thank you.
I know probably you've seen this video, but I wanted to make sure everybody has seen the video. And Cherry West is in the audience, and one of the movie stars, and so is Mr. Price. So we just wanted to make sure that we got to televise it, so it's, we can get it going.
I haven't gotten a call yet. Summer Boost Camp transforms our school building. We change it into a camp setting where students can feel like it's a different space. They have more freedom to express themselves. Typical day is we have academic rotations in the morning. Then we team build and eat with our team at lunch. And then in the afternoon, we engage in various STEAM activities. We also visit our high tunnel and gather produce that the children have helped to raise and grow. And we have community service. All day, every day, children are active, they're moving, they're engaged, and it's just fun to be at Summer Boost Camp.
So summer learning loss, or what we sometimes call the summer slip, is when students don't get a chance to flex their learning muscles. So while we offer those opportunities in the summer, it allows us to limit the amount of loss in learning that we have over summer. The data speaks for itself, where we have students coming back that have been engaged throughout the summer, do not lose nearly as much. So yes, we can absolutely tell a difference, and it's very positive for those students.
So my son is going to be going into 6th grade next year at the middle school. I've noticed this summer that he's reading a lot more. In general, I think it's just been a great program for my family.
Well, I think it's a wonderful program for all of our kids. But for Lucy, it can tell that this summer she's really made a jump between 1st and 2nd grade.
You get to have fun, you learn stuff. I like the reading. I like math.
It's fun, and you get to go on trips, and it's just a good learning opportunity in general.
Very nice.
Yeah. Who did the video?
Save the children.
Gosh, that was good. Man, that was real nice.
It's always good to see those positive things like that. That just makes you feel better.
I know some of those people. That was cool. That was real cool.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a Children's Home Society Frank Witt here?
I had emailed him the times, and I've not heard back from him since he was sick, so.
How about Jewel Litigation, Charles Webb?
Yes. Mr. Webb.
Thank you. My name is Rusty Webb. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Appreciate the superintendent inviting me. I currently represent around half of the school boards in West Virginia against the Jewel Company in vaping, in the issue of vaping. A few county commissions and a few health departments. We, and I am representing them because these vaping, I call it the second epidemic in West Virginia. I'm very familiar with the opioid epidemic because I also represent 45 cities and counties in that litigation, including Gilmer County and the city of Glenville. As the administrators or principals, both middle school, elementary, and high school will tell you, this is becoming a real problem in our schools. In rural schools and urban schools, it doesn't matter, and it's a problem statewide. And as is customary with West Virginia, if it's a bad statistic, we lead the nation. So while the rest of the nation is seeing somewhere in the 25 percentile, we're more up in the 33 percentile of kids that have either tried it or use it regularly. Anecdotally, I hear that there's one county in southern West Virginia that where they've self-told that there was around 60% that have tried it. As a result, you are seeing vape monitors having to be put in school buses, having to be put in bathrooms, and your administrators will tell you that their disciplinary actions have shot through the roof because of vaping. And what happens is that takes away from your resources that you normally apply to programming and other things. You have to spend your time in the disciplinary side of it with your county attorneys and parents and lawyers and things that you'd rather not be doing, you'd rather be teaching. So about 2 years ago, this started around the country, and some of the largest school districts, which are run, as you know, are run by cities. So your large school districts around the country are run by cities. Indianapolis, Los Angeles, they started filing, and they filed under the same theory that we filed the opioid cases, which is a nuisance case. And nuisance is an old law in the books that we hadn't used much, but we're kind of redeveloping the law for opioids and now vaping. By essentially, we're arguing that that Juul and other companies like Juul, other vaping companies, have marketed to teenagers. They've misrepresented the health effects. They've misrepresented the addiction. They've created every flavor known to man. It's like going to Baskin Robbins. If you can get any kind of flavor you want. Of course, now they're hiding some of the more potent marijuana, liquid in them, and you can't tell the difference because you can't smell it. It's unlike cigarette. In the old days, you knew that the boys were smoking in the boys' room because you could smell it. You can't smell it now. So it's become a real problem, and so the way we do these cases is nothing different than what you see on your television when you talk about car wrecks. It's nothing different than that. We take all the risk. We charge a contingency fee, which means if we are successful, we would take a percentage, and in this case, 30% from whatever we recover, and we would share expenses, whatever those expenses for West Virginia would be. We would share them amongst. Right now, I have 25 counties. I fully expect to get all 55 counties, and if I don't represent them, I fully expect that they will be represented in this matter. I really don't think any county will be left out. If you win, we win, and if we don't win, then we eat the costs. So there's no risk on your part, no downside on your part. You have a packet there that you might want to read. It has more detailed statistics of the nation. As with everything else, the reports are not as updated as we'd like them to be. West Virginia's most recent report came in January of 2020 and then again in March of 2020. So we don't have any updates, but the trend seems to be bad. There doesn't seem to be any relief for it. The difference between asking for damages in a lawsuit and a nuisance lawsuit is a little bit different, and we've all been schooled on it, those of us who have been in the opioid litigation. In other words, it's frontward thinking, not backward thinking. In other words, we won't be asking for monies to reimburse ourselves for vaping monitors or trying to monetize disciplinary actions. The idea is to look forward thinking, and it's called abatement. And in abatement, what we're saying is we'll bring in an expert witness that we'll pay, that will say, in order to clean up this nuisance that you've created in Gilmer County, we think it'll cost X amount of dollars. And that X amount of dollars would be in the form of education, in the form of treatment opportunities, in the form of prevention opportunities. I don't want you to think they're just going to print a bunch of brochures and hand them out in class. I think it's going to be far more effective than that. Just like with the opioids, if a child has an addiction and the child generally doesn't have money and doesn't have insurance, there will be monies to pay for this child to get treated and hopefully get out of this addiction. And that's the same way with the opioids. We want serious money to take care of a serious problem. So I'm I'm available for any questions now. That's the long and short of my presentation. I don't wanna keep you longer than I need to. There's a ton of information in those handouts, and, the superintendent has my number, and I'm available if you want me to. Whenever you determine, I think at your next meeting, whether you wanna join this litigation, I simply ask you to do two things. One is you'll pass a resolution that has all these statistics in it by saying you declare that there is a nuisance in Gilmer County School Board, and you'll sign the contract. And then there will be a questionnaire that the superintendent will need to fill out. That is really simple stuff. It's about a 2-pager. It's got about 50 questions. Most of it is just enrollment statistics and number of schools, and we already prepare that for you. But to the extent that you have purchased vaping monitors, it'll ask those questions. If we need to get into any, I know you all, in addition to having to do the Juul issue, you have to run a school system, and so you don't have discretionary personnel or time. And if it ever gets to the point where someone needs to deep dive into your computers and things, we'll send the paralegals to do that. So you don't have to devote any time, substantial time, other than this little questionnaire, which is pretty easy to fill out, so that you don't have to worry about devoting resources that you don't have to litigation. There was a lot of scary people who were scared in the opioid litigation, that those fears were not justified, because we'll bring in the team if we need to. I expect these cases will settle. Most of them do. 2 states have already settled, North Carolina and Arizona. I don't know what West Virginia Attorney General is going to do. I don't know if he's ever going to take these up. The Attorney General can't tell you what or if he's going to file suit for. I don't know if West Virginia will get involved, but that would be a separate lawsuit by the State Board of Education or Medicaid to recover Medicaid monies for having to spend on this type of treatment. So I'll keep talking if you don't tell me to stop.
Well, I can tell you, as a physician in the community and as a parent of 2 teenagers, that it is pervasive. I would be surprised if, by their senior year, if there's 10% left that haven't tried it. I was shocked. And just for any parent who might be listening, Amazon sells nicotine test kits that you can make your kids pee in a cup and find out if they've been vaping.
You can add that to your next speech.
Yeah, see my eyes rolling up here.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you, and I'll bid you a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
I guess, Tyson, you're up.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I appreciate you guys watching that video and the kind words that were said to that, but a good leader doesn't bask in the glory. They give all of that credit to the folks that are behind the scenes. And Sherry West is an excellent leader. She is nothing less than that, so she doesn't love the attention for those things a lot of times, and I can feel her stare on me right now, and she's broken that gaze that she gave me. But I just want to say, she ran an excellent program over the summer, so she won't take any credit for it, but she deserves it. But I just want to start with just talking about the excellent start to the school year that we've had at Gilmer County Elementary School. I want to brag on our staff. They have done an amazing job of preparing. This includes all departments. This is academics, this is office preparation, custodial staff, kitchen staff. Everybody has been go to try to make it a smooth start to the school year, and it has been just that. Some of the issues that we encountered are entirely out of our control. If you talk to anybody within this school system or any other school system in the state of West Virginia, they're gonna talk about the new WEVA system and some of the frustrations that we've had with that, but we're taking it in stride, we're learning it as quickly as we possibly can. And I wanna give that staff at Gilmer County Elementary School a big pat on the back because they have done an excellent, excellent job to help prepare for a good start of the school year. The first few days in any school are gonna be busy. We had an entirely new type of schedule to run at Gilmer County Elementary School. You guys have heard me talk about departmentalization and the planning, and I will be the first to admit I was a little nervous when we were talking about transitioning classrooms and how it's gonna run, what's it gonna look like. Some of the best laid plans can fall into the dirt when it's time to put those things into motion. But I watched the first transition, I've watched probably 3 transitions now in the hallway when it's pressure time, right? We've got 2nd grade, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade all transitioning in the hallways, and it looks like we've been doing this all year. It's quiet in the hallways. These kids know where they need to go. It's orderly. The expectations, our teachers, in the first days of school, first weeks of school, really go over expectations over and over and over again. We assume that they forgot about everything about how to do school over the summer, and that happens, and we just need to make sure that we teach them everything, how to walk down the hallway, what to carry, how to carry it, how are we getting our water bottles, how are we getting our laptop. When you go into classroom, where do you sit? What do you do when you get sat down? And our teachers have just done an amazing job with that. They have left nothing to doubt. They have done excellent with that. We've had a few bumps in the road, but nothing that we couldn't work out. And of course, the bumps in the road came from things that we didn't think we'd have any trouble with. But we've worked right through it, and I think we're doing a really good job for the first 3 days of school that we've had. The Wildcat statue is up. If you haven't seen it yet, please drive through the parking lot. The parent drop-off loop at Gilmer County Elementary School. If you have Facebook and you have friends that are parents of those kids, of younger kids, especially first days of school, we always get a lot of pictures in front of the school. That's the place to get your picture taken. So you've probably seen lots of pictures, first days of school, in front of the Wildcat. It looks awesome. Again, that was a contribution of our PTO. It was our faculty senate, some school funds. So it was really, we pulled some different funding sources together there, but it looks awesome. Little Kanawha Construction did an amazing job with the base of that. They were very creative. They did an excellent job. And I appreciate Clay working with me on this too, because even though it wasn't a huge project, they work on projects bigger than this all the time. I just appreciated the support with it just because it was a little bit more complicated a couple of different times. Let's see here.
My dogs thought it was real.
Did they?
They're
But this all really started as an effort to brand our school. We are the Gilmer County Elementary School Wildcats, and we want everybody to know that when you're on the property, when you're in the school. And so it really, Mr. Fox and I get really excited about this sometimes, especially him, and he has really taken it on as his initiative. He's done an excellent job with that. But when you walk into the school now, you're gonna see the Gilmer County Elementary School vinyl, which I have to thank Bailey Frazier for putting that up because she did an excellent job with it. It just happened to be we were working on it, and she came in and was very confident about doing it, and she did an excellent job with it. We have wall decals now, so for our elementary basketball games, when those pictures, if you ever notice this, and this is gonna maybe sound a little silly, but when you're sitting at the bleachers and you're taking pictures of the court, nothing on that wall says Gilmer County Elementary School. Now it does. We've got these banners that hang down. They're actually wall decals. You can peel them right off, paint the wall, let it dry, and put them right back up, and it doesn't damage them. They look really nice. So we've got some new rugs at the school as well that are branded Gilmer County Elementary School. But again, this is just all about some school pride, letting everybody know we're the home of the Wildcats. And then lastly, our first LSIC meeting of the year is coming up soon. It's September 1st at Gilmer County Elementary School at 4:30, location to be determined. Invitations are going out. As the ex officio of the LSIC, I have a responsibility to invite certain folks to these things, but also just to note that the meeting is open to the public, so anybody that's interested in attending that meeting is more than welcome to do so. That's all that I have. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Sounds like things went pretty smoothly with
Scary smooth, I said
departmentalization.
a couple times. Scary smooth. When's it coming, you know? It was good.
Well, that's good that when you change like that and go to departmentalization, you really don't know how it's gonna be.
Yeah, first, I was nervous. I lost a little sleep,
Well,
actually.
it's good to see
It was
you.
good.
Good to hear.
Thank you, guys.
Nice.
Good evening. You ready for me?
We're ready.
All right. It's tough to go after Mr. Price because I would say a lot of the very same things. I felt like this had the potential to really be a difficult start for the school year. And to echo what Mr. Price said, to have that, education information system that's been up for 35 years. And I remember, seeing people type on the green screens when I was just out of college. I don't know how old that system is. And then for that to go away and your counselors to say, I can't find it. And I'm looking for discipline. I say, I can't find it. I'm looking for attendance. I can't find it. And we came in the summertime knowing this would happen. And they told us, if you come in and get all your scheduling done and get everything ready, then there's gonna be a migration. And you'll be ahead of everybody else that doesn't do this upfront work. So we brought our scheduling team in June, and the second week of June, we had people in and do scheduling, and lo and behold, when it migrated over, there's just big pieces missing. The master schedule didn't add up, periods didn't fall where they were supposed to. Teachers had new names, we could see every teacher in the state, and just on, and we just felt like we didn't know if we were gonna be able to pull this off or not. And then when you walk in our school physically, so that's all happening, on the technology infrastructure, when you walk in physically, our custodians are saying the same thing. We don't know if we're gonna be able to pull this off, and we don't know if we're gonna have the floor wax. We don't know if we're gonna be able to walk down the middle of this particular hallway, and it just seemed like just overwhelming challenges. I have to say that our teachers did a phenomenal job of keeping things positive. They were happy we came in for staff meetings, and we had a picnic out at Cedar Creek one evening, and then we got together, and they were just like happy to be back in school with all these things happening. It's just like, I can't believe you guys are so positive, and it was really infectious, and it was a good positive feeling to the school year. Central office staff came over and just worked, and Mr. Frazier and working with us with the custodial staff and trying to put things back together and find things that came out of people's rooms. And I actually saw a t-shirt today that said, WWJFD, what would Joe Frazier do? He scheduled everything. I want one. My answer to that is new tile. That's what he would he would put new tile. But anyways, it's just a really positive start to the school. We're still having some challenges with scheduling. We're still sorting through kids' schedules and still trying to figure some things out. Live grades is really a valuable tool to our teachers. It's still not up and running. Schoology is a very valuable learning management system for our teachers. It's still not up and running. We're still working on discipline and trying to, I still appear in court and things and talk about discipline issues that's happened in the year past, and can't get access to all the things that I need access to. It's gone. I mean, it's there somewhere probably, but they haven't been able to migrate it over and show us where things are. I mean, it's incredible what we can't find, and that school is still moving forward, and kids are in classes, and things are going relatively, not scary, but relatively smoothly for us as well. We've submitted our lesson plans. We've got those files fixed up. Tracy DeWall's worked on that sort of thing in the background of everything, having places for people to put things electronically. The e-walks, I got a chance to talk with our new assistant principal, kind of give him a training on what the e-walk platform looks like, how we're going to assess lesson plans through the e-walk platform. So I think he's going to be a quick learn on those things and doing really well. Our new staff seems to be catching on really well to things and seems to be able to find things. The mentors that's helping them have been great. So it's just been a very positive start. I'm sure Mr. Frazier will cover a lot of the construction things that's still to come. If we get all these things done, I won't know what a school is like without a major construction project, because since I became principal, something has been being constructed or destructed or destroyed and rebuilt or something. And that looks like it's going to continue on, as we'll talk later this evening about the projects that are ongoing. And these are great things.
These are great things for our kids. So that's kind of the kickoff to our construction zone start of our school year. Very positive feeling among our staff and our students right now. Any questions you might have about the high school?
You're talking about the Weavis program that you're having problems with, because they did a lot of talking about that at the vocational center. Nobody knew what they were doing.
They took it away, and we knew it was coming for some time. And we've always said, I can't wait till they take away this DOS-based looking system and they give us something that's more modern and tabs and things that's more interactive, like a web page would look. When they finally did it, all these people that had this wealth of historical knowledge of how to be able to just make reports and find things, all of a sudden it was all pulled out from under them, and there really wasn't a manual. It wasn't complete. There's still things that's not in there. We started school without a lot of important tabs that we need and a lot of things, a lot of reports we need to run. We're taking attendance by hand, for example, and probably be taking grades by hand for a while. And that's just, in this type of era with the type of technology we have and infrastructure we have and technology, it's just unheard of that this would happen. But we're having school, and we're still teaching, we're still learning. And that's the point of is the perseverance of our staff right now has just been incredible to me. It's really encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to stay with that same theme. We had our professional learning at the beginning of the school year, and after every professional learning session I send out a survey for staff to give feedback. And what you're looking at is the survey that was sent out after our beginning of the year training. And it gives you an idea of how staff feel about the trainings that were developed and what the teachers are doing. We have purchased the Vector Solutions, which was that online mandatory training piece. I asked the staff if they would want to continue that. And out of the folks who did participate, overwhelmingly they said they really did like that program. So that will be something that we discuss with our Staff Development Council, and we will make a determination based off of the data that you're seeing right now as to whether we will continue that for next year. And my guess is yes, we will. If you flip the page, it's the various sessions that we had on those first 3 days of school. It talked about Vector, Reading Horizons, just various trainings that we had throughout, and you can see how staff indicated whether they liked it or didn't like it. A lot of the blue that you're going to notice is the non-applicable, and that is just because our cooks do not take Reading Horizons training. Our bus drivers do not take that training. So that's why you see a lot of that blue, is a lot of our staff don't necessarily have those pieces that they need to take. I also did some questions concerning what staff would like to see at the beginning of school. Overwhelmingly, a lot of them like that breakfast. And again, ESGI does provide financing for that to help us pay for that. And then they like an out-of-county speaker, someone who is different, someone who's not from county, to do those opening sessions. There are some narratives that staff had an opportunity to fill out, asking what they liked the best, what they liked, that we could improve upon. And then I ask about CPR and CPI training. And that's one thing that is super hard to get in a school year because it is mandatory. Certain staff do have to have CPR and CPI training. And it is super, super hard to get that in at the beginning of school. This past summer, what we did was we paid stipends, and those staff who could come in and chose to come in, we paid them a stipend and did it outside of the 200-day contract. And actually, that worked very well. And the majority of the staff who are responsible for that did want to continue that. So that will be something that we look at in continuing. And then just some logistics for the end of the year, whether staff would like an end of the year breakfast or a picnic type lunch that we had the past year. And again, those will be discussions for the Staff Development Council. And then if you'll flip over, and here are the narrative questions that I pulled. And one of the things that was said over and over that was very positive was that the people really did like the opening speaker, the open session speaker. He was very, very good. And then you can read what was concerned or needed improved upon, and then suggestions for other trainings for the county. And we do take those into consideration. We can't always get all of them, but we do try to get the ones that are the most impactful for staff. Are there any questions on the survey? The next thing I wanted to talk about was after-school tutoring. We are starting that September 6th, so you are going to start to see buses rolling in the evening. That will be for the elementary and the high school. The structure of both of those are going to look a little bit different, but they are going to have any child who would like to participate can participate, both the elementary and the high school. Busing will be provided. There will be some food. And then we are projected to end that around April 19th, and that is contingent upon snow days. Because of the 21st Century Grant, we are responsible to at least do 110 after-school tutoring. And if we have snow days, of course, that date will change. It will go on into April and then possibly the 1st of May. We are looking at having approximately 2 hours with students, and that is a good time. With the high school, not only, and elementary, not only is there that tutoring instructional piece, but we also do offer credit recovery for any student who has possibly failed and needs to retake or recover a credit. And we do have staff that have been trained, and that is available. They can recover that credit during the after-school programming. So that is very nice for kids who are wanting to, to open up that senior year instead of retaking credits. So if you see anybody or if anybody asks about after-school tutoring, please tell them that's available for anybody. It's open, and we would love to have them come. Probably the biggest thing right now for me is pre-K. Pre-K is going to get ready and start Wednesday. And right now our teachers are currently doing home visits. The first day for pre-K will be August 24th, and we do have a nice size set of classes. Right now we have 13 in one and 12 in the other two. However, we have students who are also 3-year-olds that are going to qualify to attend pre-K. So those numbers are going to grow. Any questions on preschool? I know Mr. Putnam mentioned mentoring. We do have mentors hired, and we did meet. And one of the things that we really want to do with new teachers is provide a lot of support to make their first year successful. We have Mr. Buckley, Ms. West, and Tracy DeWall who are doing our mentoring program. And those folks will be meeting with the new teachers every other week just to provide support. And then we will be meeting quarterly as a whole county to ensure that everyone's on the same path, same track, and any support that the county can provide, we do provide. I did talk with them about money. There is special funding available for our brand new teachers. So if there's training or special things that we can do for them in regard to professional development, we do have that, and that has been opened up to them. And then the last thing I do want to talk about is Reading Horizons, and that was the program we purchased at the end of last year. It was very costly, and it really addressed the phonics need that we have for the county. We have been trained. That was a full-day training at the beginning of the school year, and we will have a follow-up training in October 14th. So we will be looking at the data that is coming out of that phonics program to see how effective it is. We are not able to do our STAR benchmarking right now because of WEBUS. There's a little hiccup in that. But we will do our STAR benchmarking, and we will look at those phonics skills when we can do that.
When the hiccup's over.
When the hiccup is over, which may be 3 months. Any questions?
Just a question about after-school tutoring. That is available to anyone, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody decides to come, how do you decide what to teach them?
Well, it depends on, like, they could be in SAT, and the one nice thing is with our after-school program right now, Mrs. Barker is our SAC coordinator, so she would know their deficit. If it was in English or if it was in math, she's right there on site. However, our SAC coordinators do communicate with our after-school tutors on what the deficit is. If it is, they're struggling in numbers and operations or base 10, they do communicate that. The one nice thing with our tutors is it's a very well-rounded group of people because Mrs. Barker has taught math. Even though she is our librarian, she has taught math. She teaches social studies. Mr. Yoakum is a social studies teacher who also does a lot of English projects. And then we have Mrs. Norris, who is a science teacher who also is well-versed in math. So those teachers do talk to the tutors, and then those are the things that they work on. The other component in our after-school tutoring is that our communities and schools, they also have a caseload, and they work with those students and the tutors, and they keep that communication open between those two.
Okay, that answered my question. So they do try to identify the deficit and work on the deficit of a student.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that also is addressed in their SAT,
Yeah.
if they're in SAT. Now, not all of them that go to tutoring are in SAT. Some of them go to tutoring just for homework help. They need help with homework.
Seems like I'm full of questions, but do you do anything for emotional problems, emotional support of any kind?
We do not do it in after school.
Okay.
We do that during school with.
During school, yes.
Yeah, with second steps and Too Good for Drugs, those programs.
Okay, thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome.
With the facility updates, we are getting very close to the high school with the secure entry. There are some things we still need to wrap up. I kind of hit on the high points. There's more on the list than this. But we still need glass for that man trap, for the secure entry. A couple came in the wrong size, just needs replaced. And then we're still missing the transaction window where we'll actually deal with that visitor. So that's still out there. There's a tint or reflective glaze that we will put on the command center. Right now, when you walk through, you can kind of see the command center setup. There will be a reflective glaze put on that where you can't see in, but whoever's in that room can see out. So that still needs to be added. The security glaze needs to be added to the glass around the man trap. We're still missing a command center door. That's the other wooden door as part of this project. It should be here Wednesday this week, and we'll get it. There's still a little bit of painting. Overall, the painting looks good. There's still some places they need to trim up. And we looked at a couple things today where we might add a little bit of additional painting. They only painted where they were. They only painted where they were working, where they messed up a wall to fix the wall. So they only painted where they were. When that happens, kind of like this over here, where you can see this TV mounted, you can definitely see the different shade. And do we want that at the main entry at Gilmer County High School to see a line drawn where you can tell, well, we worked on it here. So we did ask today for an additional cost. We didn't commit to anything, but we did ask for an additional cost to at least get to the end of the wall where we have a breaking point. If you've walked the halls at Gilmer Elementary, you'll know what I'm talking about right now. And soon, hopefully soon, we'll bring you a painting proposal for out there. People trying to do the right thing, people trying to do something good, but try to fix a spot on the wall, and you can just see it. You can walk a stairway, you see the hallway, and actually we've made it look bad. So we have decided that we're no longer patching a wall. We're either gonna paint the corner or the whole room. We'll deal with whatever blemishes on the wall, but we need to paint the whole wall. So we're looking at that. The same thing, we got obviously the whole office area where Dendra and Charlene are, where the secretary sat, and the command center painted because they were in there. But then you have it not painted, the main hallway on the way back and out to the commons. So we just asked for pricing on that. Just try to, so we can say, hey, that area is all painted, and have that whole area looking good at one time. The outside canopy that I spoke about, that's still out there. That's not made it yet. And then there'll be a punch list. We started today in a meeting. We had a meeting today, and we started the punch list, but that's not the final punch list. We think we'll be able to award them. When I say we, Williams and Shriver will be able to award them substantial completion. So that's not completion in 2 weeks. So there still are several things to be done. There's smaller things at this point in the game. We've still got to figure out some things. We hosted 2 volleyball scrimmages last week, And we did a great job with the secure entry because you couldn't get in if you were a fan. In the old way, we used to flip a switch in the office and all the doors were unlocked. And all of a sudden, we've got people buzzing Mr. Pupman to try to get into a ball game. So we did a really good job with the secure entry. We didn't let anybody in. So we've got to work through some little things like that. It's a good thing we had the scrimmages to work through, and we will. I'd like to thank just the entire high school staff, and again, from the admin to the secretaries to the custodians to our maintenance. This takes a lot of coordination, a lot of patience, and really at the end, we're probably all on edge. I was probably more on edge than what I normally am, and you're just trying to coordinate a lot right there at the end. We were really up against it with school starting. The best example, I'll give you one particular day in this command center. We had the floor guys that needed to get the code base up. That needed to happen first thing before anybody did anything. We needed to get the walls painted. Our maintenance staff needed to get in there to install the monitors. The custodial staff, they only worked till 1. They wanted to get all the furniture moved in the room that day. And then, of course, the tech team wants to get in and do their thing. And then the secretary's got to put their touches on it. So you're just in that one day dealing with that one room, you're trying to coordinate all those different groups of people. And there was frustration. I'd be lying to you if I told you there wasn't. And I'm sure one group frustrated with the other. But everybody, for the most part, showed a great deal of patience. And I think at the end of this, and we're not there yet, we're going to be very, very happy with this secure entry at Gilmer County High School. I think when you look at it, it looks like it should, don't get me wrong, but it looks professional, it looks nice, and I think at the end of the day, we're not there yet, so if anybody's talking to you, you may hear something, we're not there yet with everything, but I think we will meet the needs and what we need at Gilmer County High School. And what a facelift, and more importantly, another layer of security, another layer of safety for our students and staff that work in that building every day. So that's the secure entry Gilmer County High School. Any questions on it?
How long do you guess until you're finished?
They have, and I sometimes got to remind people that because they actually have for their contract till September 12th. And I'll remind the board, I think we shared this with the board when we showed you the proposals. They were the lowest bidder money-wise, but they were also the lowest amount of calendar days. They were 105 calendar days. The next lowest bidder was 210 calendar days. So I know we all wanted it, and we pushed for it, and they did everything they could to have it by August 18th, the first day for students. But their contract, they had till September 12th. And actually, with the additional flooring we added, the tile work we added, there was 45 more days on top of that. So city has been really, in my opinion, really good to us and really pushed this along. The laws, there were a couple laws, and that was waiting on material. I think when they've had material to work with, the amount of work that they get done in a short amount of time is unbelievable. The amount of work done in the last 2 weeks was unbelievable to even get us functioning where we are right now. But I hope with that substantial completion, I think that date is September 12th of that next meeting. Am I lying to you? That next meeting, September 12th. I hope we award them substantial completion. Then it should be, at that point, if they are awarded that, they should just be completing the punch list items. And the way the punch list works, we have our representation there, and that has been, the superintendent's been very involved, Clay's been very involved, and Mr. Pupman. We have worked as kind of a foursome on this, and really anything we do, we're all walking there looking at it. So it's not just one of us. The architect will have to agree, and the contractor will have to agree before that punch list, before that item comes off the punch list. The contractor says, yes, I did it. We say, yes, we did, they did it, and it's acceptable. We're okay with it. And the architect has to say. So 3 different groups have to sign off on that punch list once it's made. I didn't really answer you, it kind of got you in the ballpark.
Yeah, I was just curious about.
HVAC, no, not any good news really. I just talked to him a little bit ago with ESG. There have been 3 more units delivered, and I said, well, they're not here. Where are they? I haven't seen them. W.R. Drake, who's going to do that work, they have the 3 units. So there have been 3 more delivered since the last time I spoke to you. But again, they're trying to get all those units on site and here before we have that crane lift. And that's where you get into the bigger money in a project like that. So really no movement in it whatsoever. I guess 3 more units closer than what we were before we start scheduling and figuring out when we can get them in there to set the units on the roof. Any questions on that? The animal processing classroom, we did meet on Thursday last week. I know it was the first day of school, but it's just when we could get everybody together, Williams and Shriver, us, and we did meet. What we did was go over what we thought at that time would be our final document, our final plan. This is the way it's going to go. And just like with anything, we did find some things. Williams and Shriver walked us through how you walk in the room every step of the way. Mr. Cox was there, and I kind of refer to him as in this project as our in-house expert on this. And there were a couple little adjustments. So where we're at, Williams and Shriver need to make those adjustments now. We sat in that meeting, we talked about, well, we'd rather have this. We think it needs to be like this, whatever it is. And there were a lot of specific things we talked about. We talked about each room of this place. We walked through the entire place. So I do think once Williams and Shriver makes those plans, makes those modifications to their plans, we need to have one more sit down with the people that need to approve it and pass it. And what it's the USDA inspector. He needs to give his okay on this. Our local health inspector needs to give their okay on this. So right now, we're just waiting on Williams and Shriver. We met on Thursday. Clay can tell you, I told him I expected the revisions to be done by Monday today, which was a little quick turnaround, but we are trying to push them and push them as hard as we can push them. I did state after I jokingly said today that we want the modifications, the revision by either late this week or early next week, so we can get that meeting scheduled with the USDA guy, our local health inspector, get their approval, then that'll get turned into SBA. SBA will have to look at the project and say, yep, Gilmer County, this is good, this is what you said you were gonna do, this is what we awarded the money for, move forward with it. Then we'll have to advertise, then we'll bid. But all that should be done here really soon. I know a couple meetings ago, I gave you 2 months. I told Greg Martin with Williams and Shriver that the other day, I said, listen, this has gotta happen. This has gotta happen within a month here. And I do think the advertising part will happen within a month. I'm not saying construction. You advertise for 2 weeks, and then the bid goes out for 2 weeks. So you're a month just with those requirements once you get to that point. But hopefully we're advertising within a month on that, and we are pushing them, trying to do everything we can to make that happen. Anything on the animal processing classroom? Drainage issue out back, it kind of goes hand in hand with that. We did talk with SLS today. We had a good conversation with them today, Clay and I did. Right now, they think it's in our best interest, and I'll be honest, probably financially it might be in our best interest, that to focus, if you're in the back of the high school, we've got those steps that go up to the student parking lot, to focus on those steps toward the animal processing classroom. That's where we have water running in our building. We don't have water running in the building and the rest of the building. That's where it could potentially run into this animal processing classroom. So that is the immediate concern. And that's where they want to focus on. I know one meeting I spoke to you something about some sort of fancy French drain or whatever. Today it was more along the lines of 5 inlets from those steps down that way, piping the whole thing, actually putting it where you could drive across it. So we use that as our parent loop right now, and it's a little tight back there to be honest. So actually making it drivable, we could gain a little width there once we do this. So we were looking at that. They made a proposal, Clay and I thought it made sense. Where we left that conversation today was, all right, where do we go from here? This has gotta happen, and it's gotta happen now. So where we're at with SLS, if they feel comfortable taking this project on, obviously they surveyed it, they designed it, so we owe them that already. Are they gonna work us through the procurement process of advertising, bidding it out, answering questions of contractors, holding a mandatory meeting, pre-bid meeting, answering questions of contractors, and work us through the project? Or do they want to kind of coincide with Williams and Shriver? That's how we did the high school steps. Williams and Shriver was our architect. They handled the procurement part of it, the advertising, the bidding it out, the answering the questions as we move through the project. But it was SLS's design. So we know we're going with SLS's design back there, but we need to nail down who's doing it. So they are going to call us back. They said late this evening or tomorrow, they will call us back and give us their thoughts on it. Then we'll have to regroup, get with the superintendent, and decide our way or what we think is the best go about it. So that's where we're at with that drainage issue back in the high school. We know we have to address it. We did ask them today for a ballpark figure. Of course, we won't know what it's going to cost until the bids actually come out, but we asked them for a ballpark figure today. You've got to give us some number, so we have some sort of idea, can we do this or not? And they did tell us they'd give us that number. Any questions on that drainage issue out back? The storage building at the elementary school, we also met with Williams and Shriver, with Mr. Price. Clay and I went out and did that. That was also Thursday last week. And we did, it's kind of the same thing as the animal processing. He walked us through it. This is where you walk in, this is how it's gonna go. I may have misled this board, and I definitely didn't do it intentionally. I did make a comment about expansion down the road. If we'd ever have to expand down the road and need a classroom down the road, and I think I led the board to believe this storage, and I kind of thought it, to be honest, I thought it, so I know I led you to believe this, that this storage building could be transformed at some point into a classroom. I'm not saying that couldn't ever happen, but the design plan is this storage building will be where it is, but they've put this storage building where it is, and in a way that if we did need an additional classroom, it would be on the front side of this building. As you're looking at the school, it would sit in front of the storage building. So we would still always have the storage building. And I do believe I misled the board and did not intend to do that, did not mean to do that. But this storage building, I think it's like 30 wide, 64 long, garage door in the front of it, a single door in the front of it, a door you can access from the back, a double door on the side and we're just trying to think of custodians using it, teachers using it. We want people to use it. If people are gonna use it, it has to be convenient. People aren't gonna use something that's not convenient. So you'll come right out of our double doors in the existing hallway now, go right into the double doors, same level, all on concrete, right into the storage building. So if you're willing a table, we've got a cart out there for tables, the floor mats that Tyson's referred to several times, chairs, teacher storage, you could wheel something in there on a cart. Or we'll have the access on the other end of a pickup truck or something backing something to the building. So, we made some modifications on that plan once we talked about it. Again, Williams and Shriver waited on them to make the modifications from Thursday's meeting, get it on paper, and we need the fire marshal to approve that. That's the only approval we've got to get on that, and then we can advertise and bid that out.
Is that on the right as you're looking at the building?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And as you look at the building between us and the nursing home, now one thing that we were looking at, and he only had an 8-foot gap. One of the modifications we made is he only had 8 feet between our existing building and the storage building. And we've got a playground back there, and we're in year 7. We've had a tree cutting company back there with vehicles. We have to put mulch on that playground every other year or something like that to keep the depths safe if the children fail, the fall heights, meeting all those great pre-K requirements, Shelley. Pre-K is really fun. They make anything fun. But there's a lot of requirements with that, so we have to have access back there. I was nervous that the 8 foot isn't enough, that we need more than 8 foot. So we asked them to go back and design something, get us a little closer to the nursing home or the building, give us as much access between that building, because there's not any going around, on us anyways, but there's not any going around. For whatever reason we may ever need in the back of that building, it's going to be between the buildings that we would go back there right now. So we did ask them to move it and give us some access.
Well, that's what I was trying to envision, because it doesn't seem like there's a huge amount of space on
Yeah.
that side.
Yeah, and there's not a ton. I do think there's enough for this. I am, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, a little bit nervous about that gap. I would feel more comfortable if we got that to at least like 12 foot or something. I'm thinking most vehicles, whatever kind of vehicle. We're in year 7, there's not been many, but whatever would need to get back there.
You
ought to
might
be able
need
to
a
get
dump
back there.
truck or.
Right.
Crane to put a HVC unit.
Well, right. Yeah. Any questions on that storage building?
Yeah, I have one. My question is, when you get the building built, everybody's gonna be using it. Now, I'm just trying to, look into the future here in your design. Okay, I'm teaching 3rd grade and I take my leftover stuff or whatever I'm not using in the classroom at the time and I put it out there. And I'm not saying, but it's just the way the world works. But if you're teaching a class and boy, you see something there, what's gonna kinda keep that stuff, everybody out of people's stuff?
Mr. Price.
Mark real estate. That's gonna be
Tattoos.
marked
Yeah,
real estate.
just
And that's a really good
paint it on
question.
the floor or something.
That's a good question. But the plan is shelving, and we're gonna look at some of that industrial quality metal shelving, and to give everybody an equal amount of real estate that's clearly labeled. So everybody should have the same amount. Now, if there's sticky fingers, it's the same kind of thing as what we deal with in storage closets. Some buildings have storage closets that they go in, and I'm sure.
I'm just like glue, like if you stored all your glue out there in another class, I just bought new glue.
We did talk security cameras for obvious reasons in the animal processing classroom at Gilmer County High School. To kind of relate to that, Brett, we did not talk storage cameras in that or what we might need to do there. If we think that's a need, that was not something that was brought up at the time. So, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next, I guess, is report about the Calhoun Gilmer Career Center. I attended a meeting there last week. They've basically done the same thing we're doing now. They recapped what they've done through the summer, getting ready for this year. They had about 60-some students at the Career Center that participated in their summer camps. Calhoun County itself had about 270, they said. They also are having the same problems with Weavis that Mr. Putman's having at the high school. They did get a nurse for the health program, which I didn't know whether it's gonna be able to offer it or not. And they got a mentor for the nurse, and that the lady that was the nurse before, Karen Forsythe's coming back to mentor this nurse so they could go ahead and have the program. Just one thing I observed from being on the board at Calhoun Center there, I get the robocalls, and I get about 10 robocalls from Calhoun County to 1 from Gilmer County, and I don't know why that is, but like yesterday, I got one that said bus number 9 won't be running because there's a tree across the road. And another one said, bus so-and-so is not running because the road's flooded. I don't know if we have those same circumstances or how we communicate that to the public, whether the principals do that or whether it's a county plan. I really don't know. Like, you have students that come all over Gilmer County. You might have a real flood on Steer Creek and not a drop of water here. Somehow, those things have to be addressed. I don't know how they are. Patty, do you?
It's by bus numbers. I mean, Joe can pick a bus, and it's just all the families that's on that bus. So he doesn't call the whole county. But he can call the whole county, but he can just by bus, he can do it by grade.
And I couldn't answer anything what Calhoun's doing, but that might be the number of calls. I don't know if they're doing, where they're calling countywide, system-wide for every call, where if I'm calling bus 70, I'm only calling people on bus 70. I'm not calling the whole county for bus 70.
Well, I think they must be doing a countywide call.
And I'll tell you, early on, Mr. Minnie, you probably would, because the list we have in our system right now, and a couple have hit on the communication right now with Weavis, but the list we have right now is last year's list. So to be honest, if I wanted to call a bus right now, we're lucky right now we haven't had any situation. But if we were to have one, I'd probably need to do an all-county one right now, because, just to make sure I hit everybody I need to hit. But once we get rolling and those lists get updated, we'll call the specific bus. I know if we're calling, I don't know, the nurse needed 7th graders and 12th or 11th or 12th graders called, and we only called 7th graders, 12th graders. We didn't call everybody. So we do try to specialize the list when we can. I'm sure the principals probably do the same thing in their buildings when they're putting out a call. So they might have more calls that need to go to everybody. I don't know, but there might be a call that just goes to pre-K or something. I don't know. But that's kind of how we've done it.
Okay, so you don't do the whole county at once?
When we can keep from it.
When you can keep.
If it's not me, now obviously if we're having a 2-hour delay closing school, that's an all, we're calling everybody. Mr. Butman may have a call, and I wouldn't know if board members are getting it or not, I don't know, where it's just high school related, where he's not gonna call the elementary. Tyson may have a call that's just elementary related, and he's not gonna call the high school.
It really doesn't matter whether I get the call or not. I think that the thing is that the parents know what's going on, and as long as you're doing that, that's all I would be concerned about. I just noticed there was a difference since I've been on that board. I get about 10 calls a month from Calhoun and maybe never one from Gilmer County. So that's the reason, because you're doing it a different way. Okay, that's all I have from the Career Center. New business, Gilmer County High School locker bid. Joe.
You can. What we did is we communicated with the board, we put out a bid for lockers at Gilmer County High School. And really all over the building for our junior high students and for our high school students. This is where right now we have one locker upright, that is a tall locker. Our junior high kids, and Mr. Putnam might have fixed that this year, I might have heard something different, but historically, our junior high kids have a locker of their own. Our 9 through 12 kids are sharing a locker. What this is, this will be a 2-tier locker. Somebody's gonna be on top, somebody's gonna be on the bottom. This locker is wider. Mrs. Mason can tell you, we pay a whole lot of money in textbooks, and really a kid could damage a book and not be doing anything bad, or not trying to cause any harm to the book, how tall a locker. So this locker's wider, this locker's deeper, but you'll have a top half and a bottom half, and every kid would have their own locker. Clay showed you a sample of what the collar would be if the board chooses to go with this company. From the bid, we would recommend to the board that we go with Capital Business Interiors for the amount of $83,923. If we do award this bid tonight, if the board chooses to do so, we would be in communication with them tomorrow and let them know. They know they're the successful bidder. They know they're being recommended. We don't do anything till we have the board vote. We're about a 14 to 16 week lead time is what he's thinking. So looking at the calendar, trying to come up with a way to cause the least amount of disruption to the school year. We were hoping to hit a Thanksgiving break or maybe even Christmas break where our students were out. We could get it by Christmas break, but he didn't think he could get the workers to come in over the holidays, which is understandable. So we did find, if we get it, and this time frame would allow 21 weeks for them to be delivered. So we're past that 14 to 16 weeks to get delivered. There's a 4-day weekend in our calendar that is starts on January 13th, and then there's a holiday on January 16th. They do believe they could get the demolition done, the lockers, the old lockers out, and the new lockers installed in that 4-day weekend, causing the least or minimal amount of disruption to school. Now, in saying it, I think that's very important, and you might say, why don't we wait till the summer? I don't know if the board chooses to award this tonight, and we've got new lockers, and we've got a window to get them in. Our thinking is let's get them in. Let's get them in. So that's why. Obviously, we think it's going to be advantageous to our students, a better situation for our students. And I just wanted to kind of give you that time frame. But again, the recommendation would be Capital Business Interiors for $83,923. That's kind of the time frame. The only thing I might add, just so the board is aware, and you don't think, well, you guys should have told us this, we're going with less openings, less lockers overall. If we would have went to double tier and put lockers where lockers are now, everywhere lockers are now, we were going to end up with way more lockers, way more openings than what we needed, and way more students than what we had. So we didn't want to just throw money out there just to say we put lockers where lockers are. Now, in doing that, it's going to cause a little bit of a cosmetic issue early on, near water fountains, near beams, near certain classrooms, openings. We've strategically walked around with them and said, we don't want lockers here. This would be better for us if there's not lockers here. So when the old lockers come out and the new lockers go in, something we'll have to be prepared for, have a plan in place. There's going to need to be some painting on the wall, because you're going to have where a locker covered that wall, now it's going to be exposed. There's going to need to be floor tile done on the floor. You're going to have lockers pulled out. So there's some work coming with this that we know of, and we need to make a plan for. And I just want the board aware of that.
Now, did you say they were like full-size single lockers, or they're still?
They're 2-tiered.
Okay.
They're
so
2-tiered.
like,
You have a top row and a bottom row.
and how long did the ones we have now last? Are the ones we had?
Yeah, they're definitely what you had, Dr. Miller. I couldn't tell you for sure how old. There probably are some people that could. Mr. Putnam, any conversation with you? Any conversation know how old?
Gary had them 4 years ahead of me, so.
Okay.
So they look pretty familiar to me. So.
They're definitely what you had, what I had. They lasted some time.
Yeah, I had them.
You had them?
Yeah.
Okay.
thought.
I don't want to speak to anybody's age.
No, I have a question. So, a lot, because, I had them too. So there were some that just didn't close. And then, the paper jams and stuff to where they just mechanically didn't work. So my question is what type of locks or what type of closing mechanism are you looking at on lockers? Because I was looking through the pamphlet, and there's several different options.
It's
And just what we think in longevity, what's gonna last.
Yeah, it's the built-in combination,
Yeah.
it's the built-in combination lock, because this is a wider locker, a deeper locker, we went a heavier gauge steel, a thicker steel than what we've went in the past, but we did go wider, so that's a bigger door, more, we went
Yeah.
heavier. I asked, listen, you give me the top tier locker, is this medium, or is this whatever, and we asked multiple people, we had, one particular vendor said any locker person with assault is not gonna bid on this unless they're in the building. And I do think we had 3 of the 5, 4 of the 5 maybe, at least 3 of the 5 that came and walked those halls with Clay, Mr. Putman, and myself. So I learned a whole lot about lockers. But it's a combination locker within to give you your answer. I think one thing we failed on, and I don't know why or the reason, we used to bring a locker company in each year to maintain the lockers. And to be perfectly honest, and I think we've switched gears now, and I'm not against that, I think it's a good thing, but we used to charge $5 for a locker or whatever. That $5 for a locker went to the locker maintenance. It went back into lockers and went to locker maintenance. Mr. Putman, doesn't want to charge $5 for a locker, and I'm in support of that. Let's not charge $5 for a locker. Surely we can come up with the maintenance. I think one thing to maintain them, Brett, to kind of get back where you're going at, I think yearly, annually, Mr. Putman and his staff, we need to have somebody coming in the summer and checking out these lockers. We're gonna be good for a while, but once we're 10 years in, if we quit maintaining them and quit doing the maintenance on them, we're gonna start having more trouble.
And what's our student head count and locker count? Where do you think that's gonna equal?
We're at, 462 openings, help with openings. Am I right?
Yeah, about that.
I've been a lot of numbers.
255.
452, I think, openings.
Okay.
So we can lose some lockers.
226 lockers, top to bottom,
Okay.
452 openings.
Go to the B, kind of with the numbers.
Well, Joe, I can say for sure those aren't the lockers that I have.
And we have a cutoff.
Just putting it out there, aren't you?
Fair enough.
But I do have a question about the bid here. Did you bid more, did anyone else bid on this, or is this the only bid you had?
Oh, did you guys not get, you
Yeah, I got it
should-
right here.
And if you didn't, I'm sorry, you should have got your packets,
Oh, okay, we
5
may have.
vendors.
Yeah, okay.
The actual list.
The list of who bid, I think we sent it to 10. I
Okay.
think we sent it to 10 vendors. 5 responded, should look something like this, you guys can pass that around. But that's the tally sheet that we use to go by.
It's
Okay.
attached to Joe's, it's attached to the letter.
But yeah, we did have 5, so we were happy with that. We've had some other bids with not that much interest. There was a lot of interest, and a couple of those folks have wore us out since wanting that sheet. They wanted to know where they came in at. So there was a lot of interest with that.
Now, did you say that there would be 1-to-1, one student per one locker, or they're gonna
I
double?
want to defer to Mr. Pumps, I'm not speaking out there. Yes.
Yes.
So the catch there is, we had some new lockers,
Okay.
I won't call them new, but they were very good used lockers installed. Before I became a teacher, I think they were up there about that time, they installed them. And, they are, I believe they are 15 wide, but they're top and bottom. And they are in between the middle school wing upstairs, between the east wing and the west wing, just as you're coming out of Mrs. Hickman's science room.
Okay.
Those lockers are red, white, and blue. They look good, they operate well, and those lockers will give us a surplus. And I'm thinking there's about 50 maybe openings up there. So we might, for one of those homerooms that's close by, still utilize those lockers, if we need to. And then we looked at, through the years, what we have coming up at the elementary school. So we got with Mr. Price on the phone, and he told us all of the enrollment numbers, and kind of looked at what we have even in pre-K, and what we're gonna be looking at in the future, and we'll have more than enough lockers. So we'll have, right out of the gate, we're gonna have enough. When this larger wave moves through, we're definitely gonna have enough lockers.
The lockers that we moved up there that he was referring to, they were out in the pre-K wing in this building. So those little kiddos couldn't even get to the top. So the top's still like brand new. The bottom for use, but if you've ever been in the pre-K world, they do an excellent job of showing, this is Tyson was hitting over there, this is how you open the locker. And you follow it back in with your hands so you don't slam it shut. So pre-K, they do take care of lockers. So these lockers were in great shape that we took them. And that's been in place for a couple of years.
Tyson, you might be able to find you some storage for your storage building there with these old lockers.
Going around, not just to hold on, we've got hallways that are totally underutilized, maybe we should have just done some lockers and shelving.
That's the recommendation.
Okay, you heard the recommendation, do you recommend that,
That's
Patty?
my recommendation, yeah.
Okay, then we'll need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion that we accept the locker
Capital
bid.
Business Interiors.
What?
I was telling you the name, Capital Business Interiors.
Capital Business Interiors bid.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. We're down to personnel.
Yes. Do you wanna take it by class, professional, service, and extracurricular?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay. For professional, we have Carol Edwards, substitute school nurse, Amanda Sprouse, substitute school nurse, Jennifer Walsh, substitute teacher, and Mitchell Blackburn, substitute teacher.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we hire this people on the personnel list. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Under service, we have Ben Stewart, resignation, bus operator, and then also Ben Stewart, substitute bus operator.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we do the service personnel, that's on the agenda, Ben Stewart. Do I have any discussion more about that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And then extracurricular, Jeanette Ramazan, homebound instructor, Leah McIntyre Smith, facilitator for gifted education.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we have a homebound and gifted instructor. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That's it, Patty?
Yes, for
Okay.
personnel.
We're down to information discussion on Gilmer Public Library appointment of liaison. That was brought up, I guess, at the last meeting. I'm of the understanding that when they had a vacancy at the public library, they consulted the school system to get somebody from the school system so they could be in close relationship with the school system, and they asked Mrs. West to serve on the board down there. That's what I understand. And I think that everybody knows what a good job Mrs. West does, whether it's on the board down there, or whether it's summer school, or whether it's after school, or whether it's her job during school. So I think we have a good liaison between the library and us. And we'd just ask Ms. West to please keep us informed the best she can. That's all I have to say about it, other than anybody can go to that meeting as well as they can come to this meeting. Anyone can attend this meeting, anyone can attend that meeting. If a board member wants to go down and attend a board meeting or two, come back and report to the board, that's fine. But as far as I'm concerned, we don't need anything more than Mrs. West. Now, if anybody else has anything else to discuss about it, they can.
Oh, I think Ms. West does a great job, and my intention was to provide that respect to the library that, you know, the other institutions that we give whatever small amount of money, the extension office, you know, I'm the liaison with them, and I just thought we should offer that same respect to the library if they wanted a board member liaison.
Okay, yeah. And Mrs. West, I would hope that if the library needed something or needed help, or you thought that something was needed that we could help with, that you would come to us and ask us. And we appreciate what you do down there, I'll tell you that, and all the other things that you do. So we'll let that go with you being the liaison, as well as a member of the board down there. You can keep us informed. You're a jack of all trades, or a Jill of all trades. Now, next, we got discussion of the handbook. We've discussed this handbook. We approved it, 3 meetings ago. So, I don't think that now's the time to try to change handbooks or do anything with that. There was a couple of things that we discussed that I'd like for Mr. Putnam to think about. When I read through the handbook, one thing that I know that we had some throwback at us last year about was graduation and the requirements of graduation, and who was recognized and who wasn't recognized. And according to the handbook, anybody that the high school considers to be representative of the high school can be recognized for things at graduation. An example, 4-H. I don't know what all these organizations are, but 4-H is one I know that you. Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and I don't know about military and how you feel about that. But I think in drawing the handbook into next year, if you could just list the organizations, and that would take all this stuff aside. They could just look at the handbook and they'd know right off. They can or can't be recognized, and not say, well, am I an approved organization or not? So that's how I see that. But the discussion that we had at the last meeting was pretty much the same as this. We did vote to approve the handbook as it is. And I will say this, as I will with anything else that we have. We have a board policy, I think it's 4070. Policy 4070 allows any student, any teacher, any employee the right to solve their problems. This is a grievance procedure policy that you follow. If you have something that you feel you've been wronged in some way, this is the way the school system solves it, through the grievance procedure. And it's policy 47. So if you have a teacher that she feels like that, or he feels like that they've been treated unfairly, they have a right to grieve that, and we have that in our policy. And on top of that, if you go through the grievance procedure and they don't solve your problem, you can always go to the court system.
People can't afford the court system.
And if you
here.
go to the court system first, they're just gonna kick you back to the grievance procedure. That's how it works most of the time that I've seen anyway. So that's how I see these things working. And but we can avoid a lot of this hassle up front if we get the wording in there that makes it more sensible. Like the organizations that I'm talking about, the entities that you recognize, if they are listed, then there won't be any question. And I would hope that you could do that. And I don't know how you feel about any of those any organization, because I haven't talked to you about it. But I certainly am very, very supportive of the veterans organizations, and I would think that we could work out something in that area. And I just think by that, I would also like to entertain a motion now on the handbook to have it done and to us to look at by the last meeting in June for the coming year, so we can go the first meeting in July with anything that we have to discuss, and then Mr. Putnam will have time to get it to the printer. This year, and I know, I remember real clearly, Brett, you said, well, I just saw this now. You see it, you got all these pages to look through, you have no idea about it, you've never gone through it before, you haven't done anything with it. So if we do it that way in an orderly fashion, I think a lot of this misunderstandings and confusion and stuff will go away. That's just my opinion. So I would entertain a motion to that effect, that we have the handbooks. And if anybody has it, if anybody, I'll say now, in the audience has objection to this, tell me now. If not, I think that that's how I think that we need to do to solve the problem. So I will entertain a motion at this time to have the handbooks draft copy to us by the last week, the last board meeting in June. Is that okay?
Question, yeah, you guys are back there, so there's, schedules and everything have to go.
So, and this is just, and I want to speak out, but you did ask if it was okay.
Right, it's
So
right.
my concern in this is, we work with a company to have our handbooks printed. We have about half of our handbooks delivered. We placed the order immediately after they were approved by the board about 2 meetings ago. So we received about half of them. I would really like to have those handbooks ordered before the turn of the fiscal year. Really, for us, if it would be possible, and I don't want to rush Mr. Putnam, but, you know, late May, early June, sometime in there, if I could have them approved so I would know. You know, our handbook revision process starts, in my opinion, September, when we have our first LSIC meeting. I mean, that's kind of when that process starts. So
Okay, so you're saying early May, first meeting in May, is that okay with you?
I don't want to,
And Mr. Putnam, I don't know what's a good time for you, so you need to let us know.
Just the process in general, I think, is what I would like to maybe have clarification. I mean, we have state policy, we have code, then we have state policy, then we have local board of education policy, and then your school is given the charge of developing procedure to implement the policy that you have on the books.
Yeah.
And not everything that you do in a school is listed in your handbook, but it helps people kind of know how the school operates. And I would like for our LSIC and our school leadership team, our faculty senate, and our admin team to have say in what those procedures are and how they need updated. And be open through the school year also to the Board of Education and your advisement on what things you see as that might make improvements in that handbook. And not come up on June, present you a handbook, and then have 3 or 4 board meetings where we really hash out a lot of things and change things that the LSIC, school leadership team, faculty senate, and administration of the school have been working on through the year. And that's, I would ask that you consider that methodology. I think the procedures and how to operate school is why you have administrators in your system. The policy, if there's anything in the handbook or anything in the procedures of how we operate school that's against county policy, absolutely. And we have people on our board that's given themselves to the charge of looking at policy and making sure that a policy is aligned to state policy and the state code. I think that's a very wise thing for our board to do. I would just like not to run into June and then be in debates. I think the subjects that you've mentioned are very doable. I think decide on what's worn at graduation. No disrespect to military, no disrespect to Girl Scouts, or 4-H, or that's fine. Let our LSIC school leadership teams, let those administrative teams, let them define it. Have a set of things that we're going to have as addendums through this year. I just caution when we get to June of opening a long-term debate when we need to get these things put together, printed, and sent out.
Well, I don't envision having a long-term debate. I would just like to know what those policies and procedures are and have time to read through them before we, if there's going to be changes or differences from last year's to this year, we need to know what those are. And we're trying to set a timeline so that if we have these by the end of May or whatever is a good time, then we'll know that we can get that through the board and have it approved, and there won't be any problems with that. That's what I'm saying. And define those areas that are causing problems so you don't have problems. In other words, if you have it listed there that you're gonna recognize the Boy Scouts at graduation, then we'll know that. If you don't have them listed, we'll know you're not. That, people need to know. They just can't guess at what might be or might not be, is what I'm saying. And that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see it by May.
Well, I think on that specific topic, I know we weren't gonna open up a discussion on the handbook, and here I am, open up the discussion. I think on that specific topic of what to wear to graduation, I think we should work on an addendum for this coming graduation. If it's a hot button topic and people care strongly about it, then discuss it and work it through your groups this year, and even have something that might be different than what your handbook is for this spring. I think to work on it as you go, work on things as you go, so it's not a shock to you in June, hey, he didn't change this thing on cell phones. Well, it's not me that didn't change it. You know,
Right.
we have 3 organizations that want to keep it the same, and the admin team.
Well, there's more than you to the handbook. There's
That's
lots
right.
of
Thank you.
people that's involved in that handbook. And that's what I'm saying. We need to all get on the same page and do it the same way. And if this policy, probably, we need to think about this as a board and come back to the people at the high school, the LSIC and the students and the administration, and decide what these groups are that we're gonna let be recognized. And we can do that anytime. And as a board, we need to get together, and like we're having a work session next time, it'll be a good time for us to talk about those things.
That's what I was thinking, if we could find a way.
Prevent problems.
If we could find a way to bring you those issues, because the whole handbook, I think it's just, you know, little cosmetic things in there that we hear about, we get the phone calls and stuff, and that's, you know, don't mean to be like, you know,
But I
saying
think-
that this is the way it's gotta be, but if we could just express those to you, if you're not getting them, if we could express those concerns to you and work together to fit them. But it's how to express those, I think, and how we can all work together to get that to you, I think is kind of the hiccup here.
And I think your idea of what you've mentioned about let's do it instead of waiting might be a good idea for us to do it that way now and try to get these things aside so we don't run into a problem. And these hot button issues don't need to be out there in the public. And I appreciate cooperation in that way, and we as a board will do our part. And, of course, we're just one entity. There's, like I said, I would think the student council there would be as important as me as to what they do at the high school, because it affects them a lot more than it does me. So let's listen to what they have to say. Okay, that sounds good, and we'll discuss this as a board at a later date and try to come up with a solution to that problem and bring it back to the administration. That sound good enough? All right, and we'll go ahead. Do you want to go ahead with yours in May? Revise it, look at it?
Yeah, it should be, what my goal would be is ready for print in May, so that way I can work with the company that we get our books from, our date books, because they include our handbook, then they're also our student planners. So we use those,
So
students
could,
have them in their hand all the time.
so could you come back to us in April and say, this is the handbook that I want printed for next year?
I would wanna look and see what I would wanna have at least 3 LSIC meetings between now and then. So if I could look and see what my 3rd LSIC meeting is, I can tell you when that.
Okay, then you can do that at the next meeting then.
Yes, I will lay out that plan in that September. I will also use the faculty senate. They get input on this, the Wildcat Pack. There's a slew of us, like Mr. Putt was saying, there's a crew. We put a crew together with that, so.
Then okay, Joey, go ahead.
Just one small point to add, I I think the folly of time, but our county calendar, when it is due is May 1. I'm sure these guys add that into their student handbook, but the due date for it is May 1 each year. The school calendar for the.
Right, and that's
So
good.
I would think they'd want that information before they, now maybe they show you the rest and they're adding the calendar later. I'll let you all work that out, but May 1st is when.
Well, sometime around the 1st of May, you'll be all right with that, I'm
Yeah,
sure, Mr.
anything
Price.
that would be a practice or a policy at the school level, a change to that would be, and that's a very good point to make, because we do include important dates, terms, parent-teacher conferences. It doesn't take a long time to figure those things up once you get the calendar, but it is necessary before you can put it to print.
Okay, then I will make a motion that we do the handbooks at Gilmer Elementary at Mr. Price's direction and time around the 1st of May, first meeting in May. And I will recommend that we are also in that motion will be the high school. We will do an ongoing process with that. We will get together as a board and do our presentation and get it back to the administration so they can get with the groups at the high school. Does that make sense? Do I have a second to that motion?
Second, yeah.
It's been moved and seconded that how to address the handbooks. Is there any more discussion?
I just had a question about the LSIC. I don't know really anything about it and who decides who's on it, and I just had that question.
Good.
Sure, so the LSIC is in code. It says that there is a principal that will serve as the ex officio, that there are 3 teachers, one of which would be focusing in the mental health department. So in our case, Mrs. Goodnight has agreed to be on that. The other 2 were selected and voted upon by the faculty senate. The next selection or the criteria is with service personnel. We have to have a bus driver. What I did is I sent out an email to all service personnel for Gilmer County Elementary School, and I explained, and I took a copy and paste from my handbook about what the LSIC is, and I asked, I really need interest in this. You can see the folks that we need, please reply to my email if you have an interest in doing this. And then the code says that they will be selected by ballot. So what I plan to do, and there's a little bit of flexibility with this, what I plan to do is invite all of those people that are interested. And we will have a vote by ballot of who is that member. However, when you read the code on this, we can have more than the minimum voting members. So I want every service personnel that says, I'm interested in being in this, because I had several, and that's a really good problem to have. I will, I can make some judgment there as to, hey, you can all be voting members to this, so that I have the minimum of that. And then there are parent members as well. Those in the code, it encourages us to use the PTO, if our school has a PTO, to select those members. So I was hoping that I would have a PTO member selected by now. That's kind of where I'm falling, that's where I'm at right now in that process is. We don't have a PTO meeting between now and then, so I'm gonna message our PTO president. She has a listserv of folks that are interested. I did talk with actually a grandparent. She's a former principal in another county, and I had asked her, I said, hey, are you interested in being a part of an LSIC? So sometimes it's that, if you can get that conversation, she's got a lot of school knowledge. She wants to be very involved with her granddaughter's education. But the next will be, having our PTO president, Gretchen, send out an email or a message to them saying, hey, are you interested in being in the LSIC? Sometimes we're really prodding to get people to participate in it.
How, Mr. Putnam, since you all don't have a PTO, how do you approach that part of it?
So it's somewhat similar, but there's a little more recruiting in asking. And I asked that Mikhail Fox kind of chair putting together who's on the LSIC, because that takes care of that emotional staff member need that's there. So she's kind of there. I'm there as ex officio, of course. We had, by code, the faculty senate actually votes on who your faculty members are. At the start, they elected 3 that were all special educators. I went consider some variety from just that one content area team, or what I'm calling our PLC. We have a PLC from special ed. So I can get some PLC representation with some variety and just have just special ed. I'd like to have an English and a math and have some variety there, which they graciously did. And they got us some additional names, so those are how the teacher names were there. And then we had a list of names that were also provided by the faculty that might be recommended for community and parents as well. And then some in the office, asked, would you do it? And they said no, and others said yes. And we kind of had to beat the bushes a little bit. It's hard to fill ours out. We'll probably have some vacancies starting out. I would think in service personnel, I think our service personnel person, you need one that's a bus driver and one that's another service personnel. I think the bus driver may be shifted or something. So we're gonna be looking at service personnel. We kind of just beat the bushes on that and tried to find somebody that would do it that was service personnel. We didn't have like 10 names to choose from. People said they were interested. We got our student council representative. We went to a student council meeting. We asked the student council to elect one of their officers. That was Maya Huff, who presented here as the presider for the
Parliamentary procedure.
recently. Her mother's also on there, so hope there's no nepotism clauses in LSIC. But we also added some businesses, invited some businesses. We had a couple takers on that would be business organizations that would be with us too. One thing to understand with us, we haven't had an LSIC at Gilmer County High School for 4 or 5 years. They had none at all. I don't know how they did that, but they didn't. So we're kind of starting from itch. And now that we've got itch figured out, now we're at scratch. And so we need to, our first meeting actually needs to happen immediately so that we elect the officers on the LSIC. So there's not a president of the LSIC right now, and there should be officers in that. So that'll be the first thing we do is elect the officers. Our meetings we wanted to have when we're having parent-teacher conferences, so we're hoping that we can get better parent involvement. If they're coming to one meeting on the same night, that maybe they come to LSIC, maybe stick around, and then have parent-teacher conference. Maybe the two would help each other. But we'd like to have one before we even get to midterm, so that we can elect officers. So that's kind of where ours is right now. I wrote Mrs. Fox again today. I would like to have one in the next week, in the next 2 weeks. And I like to have, even if it's 3 teams, let's get one under our belt, and then have 3 more that's going to hit in midterms and one at the end of the year. So,
Mr. Putnam, I'm shocked when you say there's not been an LSIC council at Gilmer County High School. How long's it been, Patty?
Last one was Mrs. Butcher, and then, there was no interest, and it didn't follow through. Then COVID hit, and of course you couldn't meet, and so Mr. Putnam is really pushing to get it back. And I think even at the elementary during the COVID,
Well, isn't LSIC required by code?
yes.
So, I mean, I'm glad you told me that. I did not realize that, and I'm sure that most of the people up here did not realize that. A local school improvement council is a very important group to have in a school. And the reason that the legislature created that was so that you would have input from everybody in the community to help make decisions in the school. And I'm just amazed that went on and nobody was there. I'm glad you made us aware of that. Okay, I made a motion. Did you get that, Lisa? Did you get that motion all written down?
You did. Well, I will replay it. Okay.
Okay, can you repeat what it was? Because I've forgotten already.
Just let him rewind the video.
So elementary will be the first meeting in May, and the high school, it's gonna be an ongoing process. The board will get together, make a recommendation to admin and Mr. Putnam.
Yes.
As an ongoing process.
Okay, second to that motion then.
I think Brett seconded.
Brett seconded, and I think there's been pretty good discussion on that motion, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
One nay, 4 ayes, is that right? Okay. All right, hopefully we can get this issue in a much better shape, and I'm really glad that I was made aware of this LSIC thing at the high school, because I think that, and I'm glad to hear that you're trying to get it going and reinstitute it and all that. I'm just amazed that it's gone this long. Now, superintendent's information.
Okay, I won't go back over what Shelley and Joe and all of you said, but WEVAS 2.0 has been difficult with scheduling. But I do have some good news, that we were able to provide additional help in 9 extra classrooms at Gilmer County High School for our students with disabilities, with science, social studies, ag of science, and home economic. So we were able to provide that in third, help me out, Mr. Putnam, third, 7th, and 8th, I believe, periods. So these teachers who struggle, who, need someone to read the test or to provide the accommodation to make sure the IEP is being followed, we do have 9 additional classrooms that we will be able to provide that help. So that is great that we have that. It's the first time we've been able to offer that help to the science and social studies area. So we're extremely grateful that we have that extra social or special ed teacher to cover our 6th grade, which allowed us to use our other teachers in the middle school to address this. So that was a very positive from the scheduling, but it took us 4 days to get all of it done, but it's done, and we're very pleased with that.
Thank you.
So, and school started the 3rd day, and we're still going strong, so.
Okay, we're down to board members' comments. Anybody have anything?
I just had a question about the levy. Now, does the levy money pay for school supplies, like for classrooms?
Yes.
Okay. And
There was a discussion, I know that a teacher had made that, and Mr. Putnam, I believe, addressed that. I mean, she's not exactly new, but she is new, and so, I mean.
well, I
anything
was
they
sure
need-
there were extenuating circumstances, but I read that and thought, well, doesn't our levy
No,
pay for?
anything they need. I don't think our teachers have been turned down for anything that's,
As long as
that they
it's
need.
reasonable, they have not been turned down.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was just lack of not knowing.
Yeah, that's fine. The other thing is I've been looking at other counties' websites for their school systems. Maybe Lewis, I don't know, I've looked at so many now. But they have a specific link on their first page there for math tutoring for ACT, SAT, or I forget exactly what it says. Click this link for, help with your math, ACT scores, don't let math, kick you out of the Promise Scholarship or something like that. And, I mean, I know we don't have, well, I assume we still have the class in school, but not all kids could take that. But even if there were like a contact person that a parent could call them up and say, hey, my kid needs help, and, on the ACT, what are my options? And, because I know like Daniel Bonnet, and I know there's a woman we used in Clarksburg, and it would just be nice if a parent had that, because we would have had no clue where to start at the time. I didn't know about Daniel Bonnet. Just so happened we had cousins in Bridgeport that put us on to someone, but I would have had no clue otherwise.
That's something we can talk to the ACTG and Mr. Putnam. And
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for parents, because, the Promise is a big deal. That's $20,000 for our kids to go to school.
Real quick, I've made this plea before, and I would just like to reiterate, every so often some bad or inaccurate information will make its way out. I was a public school teacher for a long time, and every so often students will not hear things correctly. And when that inaccurate information gets out, I would like to politely ask that the teacher involved maybe be contacted, or there is a chain of command. The principal, the administrators, instead of hopping on to social media and spreading it and creating unnecessary animosity, especially when it's inaccurate information. So I would just like to politely ask, the board's here for you. The teachers are there for you and your students. So please, if we have issues like that, let's bring it up to the teachers and to the administrators and to us, rather than just kind of running with it.
Good point, Dr. Barr. Any other board members have anything?
I have a couple
Okay.
points here. I wanted to provide an update that the policy committee has been established, and the policy committee will meet on August the 31st at 4 o'clock here at the board office. And so I want to work with Lisa and Patty to get that agenda and all that ready so it can be posted. And again, that is an open meeting, correct, Patty? Okay. And so we're working on that, and so that's, making progress. I just wanted to give you all a little update on that. And then on August the 16th, the West Virginia School Board Association done a Zoom presentation on the constitutional amendments that are going to be on the ballot in November. I attended that presentation. It was very long, had a lot of law and different, complicated subjects, to it. From what I could gather, this Board of Education is allowed to pass a resolution for or against those constitutional amendments per Howard Sufer's, advice that he gave, in that presentation. The School Board Association said they would continue to provide more information on that at our fall conference that all of us, assuming is going to attend. I think that, my recommendation would be that we do not act on that until we have a little bit further information, or just not act on it at all, but I think at least wait until after the fall conference until we get provided with some more information before we tackle that agenda item at future meetings.
Cody, I want to just thank you for the work you've done, the policy issues. This is something that the Gilmer County Board of Education needed to have done for a long time, and it's the first time there's really been an effort from the board to renew itself, and I think that's you're to be thanked for that. About the constitutional amendments, I know all I need to know to tell you how I'm gonna vote right now. But I watched the Zoom meeting as well, and I think that maybe at a future date, I would like to get this on the agenda, not now, not the next meeting, but sometime a couple weeks or months before the election, we need to get together and see if we want to pass a resolution one way or the other. So that's what I see about the amendments, but you're right, that was a long and complicated, more complicated than was necessary for what the problem is. One other thing I'd like to get on the agenda for next meeting, Patty, if you would discuss getting and I'd like to try to purchase a condenser microphone for us here so that we can have a much better communication system going out of here. So if we could get that on the agenda, or if there's anything else that you need to make the process better, get that there, and that would help us a lot.
If it's under 5,000, can we just go ahead and just purchase it without?
Well, we haven't really acted on it as a board.
I don't think we have to,
Yeah,
if
we-
it's less than
If
5,000.
it's less than 5,000, then we can go ahead and get the necessary.
You can just go ahead and purchase it. Well, as far as I'm concerned, personally, purchase it because we need it and it's needed. And everybody else will be better communicated to and with this kind of a system. Or if there's something else that goes along with that would improve it and you need it, purchase that as well. That's all I have. I want to thank everybody tonight for being cooperative and working and trying to get to the bottom of these problems and solving them all. And I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second, all in favor? Aye. Motion's approved.
Shelley, please tell me you're hot.
No, she's not.
Shelley, what did you say pre-K